Last week we were talking about checking in with the Mystical Heart Center and seeing how that worked in terms of bringing you a more vivid and maybe exciting experience of your own enchantment and your own divinity, and especially your own synchronicities and flow. So I hope that worked for you. Let me know. I'm always willing to listen. I read all of my emails. Today we're going to talk about a synchronicity and a book. This is another really good story, but I'm also going to tie it into some meaningful lessons about being our own inner teacher. So I had an experience in the last few days of what I would only call disappointment and a bit of a loss of faith in somebody who I considered a teacher. And without going into the story because it's not relevant, it's what this upset. I love that expression that every upset is a setup, and what it's set up to do is to awaken us to who we really are. Everything in our lives has a potential to be a doorway or gateway to greater light. And for me, this upset became that doorway, and it catapulted me into a depth of self-knowing that I had yet to experience. And so I'm so grateful, and I feel so blessed for what could be considered, you know, a demanding or challenging or chaotic situation. Years ago when my mother died suddenly, and that's a whole other story, I'll tell that next week. She was hit by a car. I was 39. It was another opening for me. It was that kind of crazy ass chaos, but shock, loss, grief that led to a huge opening in my heart and completely revolutionized my life. It was the beginning in earnest of my seeking for God. It was the beginning and earnest of my remembrance of she. And I'm going to say she because I was on the airplane to my mother's funeral, already knowing that this pivotal event, I was an adult orphan, my dad had died before my mom a few years earlier, knowing this adult orphanhood moment was actually a gateway or a portal. And on this plane at 30,000 feet on the way to my mother's funeral, I heard a voice, and it said, "You must dedicate yourself to the mother." And I'm like, the mother, what is that? And I didn't really know what that meant, but at the time I understood deeply that having lost my mortal mother, I was now given the opportunity to, I was being given the opportunity to serve something greater. And to me today, the mother is the very, very deep connection point I have here with the feminine face of God. I was talking on the phone today with a man who was very much discussing with me this whole divine feminine, the mother, and the path of the feminine face of God. And as we were speaking, I had this urge to get up and clean my bookshelf off. And as I was rearranging books and moving papers, one of the books fell at my feet. Typically, yes, that's how it works for me. Books fall at my feet. And I had never read it. It was one of those books I bought years ago, and it's called The Unknown She. And what I love about this book is that, of course, it's all about the feminine face of God through the eyes of various female teachers. Now, here's the coolest part. You're gonna love the story. I can't believe on a week when I'm like, oh my God, I think I've lost my teacher, or I've lost my faith in my teacher, and therefore I guess I don't have a teacher anymore, because it's really hard to restore that sense of connection when you actually, you know, it's like when when you figure out Santa Claus isn't real, you know, no matter how much you wish Santa Claus is real, you know, hey, it's not happening. There's no guy in a suit coming down the chimney. So I kind of think I lost my faith in that sense, my naivety, my innocence, my wanting and willingness to put somebody on a pedestal, and to give away a bit of my own power, to give away a bit of my own inner knowing, and give it to an authority. And when I opened the book, I opened up randomly to the chapter about the woman who wrote the poem called The Unknown She. She's a Sufi mystic. Her name is Lynn Barron. She teaches around the world. She conducts meditations. And her own mystical awakening was profound. As she writes, she's interviewed, she talks about it in here. And but that's not the important part. That's the beautiful and inspiring stuff if you read all about her. What was really, really, really cool is when I opened the book up randomly, not only to the poet of that gorgeous poem, The Unknown She, I opened to the section where she talks about the role of the teacher in modern consciousness, in this unfoldment of love that is happening across the globe as we are elevating into, I guess, maybe a new paradigm, but also into the collective remembrance of who we are. So I wanted to read that to you because it was the medicine and the message I needed today to finally close out, I suppose, this kind of chaotic time for me. And even though it's been chaotic, by the way, I'm going to direct you down to the link below, my poem that I wrote called Her Blessing, and my blog post around the chaos, because actually I found that being in the middle of this storm was a huge, huge blessing, and it woke me up to something deeper as well. So here's what she had to say on page 304. She's talking about the niche of the heart. And she says, this is a state of consciousness that we're talking about. It's a state of being, a consciousness of love. And love is the transformative element. It does not teach. It transforms, forms, and reforms. Traditionally, the teacher had authority and you had to be obedient. But this new consciousness works so differently. Nobody has authority over anyone else. It's a state of oneness and equanimity, everything in its right place, aligned vertically with what is highest in the self. So I leave you with that little magical synchronicity that the book that fell into my attention span today was exactly what I needed to read at exactly when I needed to read it. That is what I mean, by the way, by the Magic and Miracles program. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. I am at my poolside at the end of the day, and I want to show you something. This, I believe, is a passion flower. The bees are all over, and they're all over my yard. And they're just so gorgeous. Oh my God. I mean, can you see how beautiful that is? Oh my God. Oh my goddess. All right. Thank you so much. Ciao. Till next time.